Hi, I'm Jude from headfi.org. Though many high-end loudspeaker manufacturers have entered the premium headphone market, few if any of them have made headphones with the same level of technology, innovation, materials, and craftsmanship that they've applied to their very best flagship loudspeakers. Often a speaker company's headphones bear no apparent relation whatsoever to the company's heritage or any of its loudspeaker products. Even those companies making cost-no-object speakers have, up until now, focused on headphones that are more affordable, more reasonably priced. Back in 2011, high-end French loudspeaker manufacturer Focal entered the headphone market this way with their Spirit line of headphones. The Spirit 1S, the Spirit Classic, and the Spirit Professional here being the current models in the line. These headphones actually all sound quite nice, are relatively affordable, and are owned by many people in this community. Now, as nice as these Spirit models are, though, they've never screamed Focal to me. I enjoy these headphones and can recommend them at their price points, but I've never held one of these, worn one, listened to one, and felt reminded of Focal's cost-no-object loudspeakers or Focal's heritage. Today, however, Focal is changing that with two new ultra-premium headphones. The Focal Elear, priced at $999, and their new flagship Focal Utopia, priced at $3,999. Both headphones, in my opinion, based on sound quality at their prices, their designs, ergonomics, and based on technical performance and measured performance, I think both of these headphones make a strong case for being among the finest moving coil dynamic headphones ever made. And to develop and manufacture these two new headphones, Focal dedicated the kind of resources and know-how that they've used to develop magnificent hand-built speakers like their flagship $8,000 per pair Focal SM9 studio monitors and their price-no-object flagship audiophile loudspeaker, the over $200,000 per pair Focal Grand Utopia EM. To develop these headphones, Focal turned to the engineers they already had on staff at their Saint-Étienne, France headquarters. Engineers with many, many years of experience designing top-flight loudspeakers and who approached the Elear and the Utopia headphones as if they were designing ultra-near-field, full-range, single-driver loudspeakers. Research and development of these two top Focal models started soon after they launched their Spirit line and continued for several years until now. The end result are headphone drivers that are so clearly informed and influenced by the Focal team's long history developing and making loudspeakers that I actually can't think of any other moving coil dynamic headphone drivers that are more loudspeaker-like in terms of design than the drivers in the Elear and the Utopia. And given that Focal's engineers weren't headphone specialists going into it, their approach to headphone driver design was fresh and unconventional. The results outstanding. And as they do with their premium loudspeakers, Focal manufactures the Elear and the Utopia using their most skilled employees, building them largely by hand with rigorous testing throughout the manufacturing process and even using machinery that Focal literally designs and builds in an in-house machine shop. Focal executive Nicolas Debard has visited headfi HQ a few times in the last couple of years leading up to the Elear and Utopia announcements today, and we had a chance to ask him about the unique drivers in their new flagship headphones. Let's talk about the driver in here because there is more in common, and I've seen the drivers, we have a couple out there, but I've seen the drivers, I've been to Focal. The drivers have more in common, I think, with loudspeaker driver technology than any other headphone that I can recall.
Yeah, that was one of the starting points when we started these two project adventure. We started these 4 years ago, basically. So it's a kind of 4 years journey for all of us, be it at the R&D or also at the manufacturing side. The core idea behind it was the following one. We are well known in the speakers industry, thanks to the Grande Utopia as an example, which is our flagship in the hi-fi. When you listen to a piece of music through these kind of speakers, it's an amazing experience. As far as headphones are concerned, many good products in the market offer you a very impressive listening experience. However, you never get the same feeling than the one you have when you listen to a pair of speakers in the room. And that was for us a key point to start with. We really wanted to get that feeling, that very vivid listening experience you get when you listen to a piece of music through a pair of very high-end speakers into a pair of headphones. And that was the very beginning of the project.
So, to do that, though, you really did bring a lot of what almost all of what you've learned into these drivers. What special I mean, a driver's not, a driver's not a driver's not a driver. I mean, clearly, and certainly when it comes to speaker to headphone, I mean, there's going to be some unique challenges that come with a headphone driver. So from your standpoint as a loudspeaker manufacturer, what were some of the challenges that you had developing the driver for this? You decided to go upmarket, you wanted to go flagship, now you've got the Elear and the Utopia. What were some of the challenges you faced developing the driver?
First of all, as I told you, to reach that point, I mean, going for the same experience than the one you have when you listen to a pair of speakers. For us, one of the key points was, okay, so if we want to achieve that, first of all, we have to come out with a super open pair of headphones. That's a key point, because if you start, I mean, with a pair of headphones, right from the moment you put them on your ears and you have the feeling that it changes the room impedance because you enter into a smaller room at some point, this is wrong. So this is why we went for a super open design for these two products. Then also Focal, we are well known for our exclusive technologies in terms of loudspeakers. And then that makes us, obviously, we wanted through that experience to transfer that experience and that knowledge into the headphones world. So what we did at that point is we said, okay, we want to reach that performances level, that experience, that very vivid sound you get from a pair of speakers into a pair of headphones. So let's develop and manufacture in-house the very first full-range loudspeakers ever manufactured for a pair of headphones, and this was the key challenge.
And that was the approach. Full-range loudspeakers is how you actually viewed it, like a very extremely near field.
Exactly, because that's exactly the point. We've been through that kind of experience since the beginning of Focal in 1979, and the next step for us at that point was when we came out with our very first studio monitors. Because what changes at that point is that from a pair of hi-fi speakers to a pair of near-field pair of monitoring, then obviously the sweet spot distance is not the same. And we already got that kind of philosophy and part of the challenges at that time. So here we just wanted to go for a kind of super near-field pair of speakers built in within a pair of headphones, so that's why we went for such a technology.
Even though Focal approached the drivers in the Elear and Utopia as loudspeaker drivers in miniature, the single driver per side, full-range nature of the headphones obviously presented unique challenges for engineers steeped in designing multi-driver loudspeakers. For the driver design for their two new flagship headphones, the combination of approaches Focal took ended up being rather unique, and their efforts to minimize distortion, optimize responsiveness and resolution, and minimize mass led to some clever and unusual innovations.
The key thing is here, obviously you will ask the full-range loudspeaker to reproduce from 5 Hz up to 50 kHz for the Utopia driver, as an example for the Utopia loudspeaker. There, the main challenge is obviously the mobile assembly. Why? Because the mobile assembly must combine so many things that usually fight against each other. First, it must be very light, because if it's not light enough, it will never reach high frequencies. Then also it must be super rigid in order to avoid distortion and so on, and also to offer impressive performances in the bass spectrum area. And then, in order to maintain very natural sounding, clear sound, revealing sound, the damping capability of the dome must be the best you can find in the market to avoid any sound coloration at some point. So these three key parameters for us were definitely the ones we had to focus on when we started the first step of the R&D process.
So let's talk about those drivers, because the Elear and the Utopia have a lot in common in terms of design, some key differences in terms of materials, magnetic structure, things like that. But there were some definite commonalities then between the two, and there are things about those drivers that I have not seen in a headphone driver before. So if I may, one of the first things I noticed was the coil.
Yeah.
Is the widest coil relative to the total diameter of the diaphragm of the actual cone, if you will, in your case.
Yeah, exactly. As first of all, as you can see, what we did there is, you know, in terms of waveform, when you listen to a pair of speakers in the room, the waveform that reaches your ear is a planar waveform, right? So we wanted to get that into a pair of headphones. So first, what we did is we worked on a very unique shape in terms of the dome shaping in order to get that. So we went for a new dome shape, which is called M-shaped dome. That allows to have a dome as flat as possible to get that kind of planar waveform going through. Then, obviously, here, as you can see, based on the inner part right there, we can use that to attach the voice coil to it. So that allows us to go for a 25 millimeter, so 1-inch voice coil, which is a very big diameter in regards to the overall diameter of the loudspeaker dome. And in the same time, as we require to these loudspeakers to perform to very low to high frequencies, it requires a very big X-max, a very big displacement capability. So to go there, this voice coil is also very high. The 8 is 4.4 millimeter, which is impressive in regards to the size of the loudspeaker.
Right, sure.
And what I mean is it's a real loudspeaker because it's not a driver. As you can see on the back, it's fully
Well,
open
let's see.
back.
I'm not sure if we can see. Let me see. Yeah, so this is the, I mean, if I put, just to show how open it is, and we'll show some close-ups of it, I can touch the back of the diaphragm by putting my hand through it. What you're looking at here, which again I'll show close-ups of, is actually the back of the diaphragm.
Exactly.
So that's how open it is.
Yeah. It's fully open back because here the idea was to avoid any kind of loading system to get rid of any dynamic compression first, and also to push the limits of the distortion as far as possible. Because obviously when you have regular driver mechanical principle, you have to drill holes on the back of it to fine-tune the bass, frequency response, and so on.
Right.
Interesting in terms of sound tuning, but then there is a limit, which is obviously the distortion that brings.
So this does, I mean, obviously, I know because I'm looking at it, you can't see it. Again, we'll show close-ups, but this doesn't have any holes. You're not using like venting per se or any of that to sort of porting or so now. Again, you mentioned X-max. Just for those of you who don't know, I think that's maximum linear excursion of the driver, how far it can move in a linear fashion. And the X-max for this is actually very, very long. It's a very high X-max relative to the diameter. But also, what I was mentioning earlier is relative to the diameter of the driver, the coil goes almost all the way out to the edges, further than any other driver I've seen.
That's you're dead right. That's the biggest voice coil ever developed and manufactured for a pair of loudspeakers in the headphones. Why? Because here,
relative to the diameter.
Exactly, relative to the diameter. Because here we wanted to have, first of all, a very good mechanical coupling. Obviously, the bigger the voice coil is, the better is the mechanical coupling to the dome.
Right.
Because here, as you can see, it's attached right here. So it allows a very good mechanical coupling, a very good piston way of working.
Right.
So this was very important, especially for the low frequencies, you know.
And it also helps, I imagine, to prevent driver breakup because if you're driving it from the center, right, if you're pushing the cone from the center or the diaphragm from the center, there's that chance that you probably greater opportunity to have deformation of the driver under load. So, but this one, so again, if you look, there's a crease, if you will, on the outside, and that crease would be where the coil is essentially also attaching.
The crease is actually right there.
Yeah, and the coil is attaching behind there at about that diameter, right? Almost right on that crease.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the coil is also, the coil design is unusual.
Yeah,
so you handed me one when we were in France. He put a coil in my hands, and I noticed something different about it right away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, here you got it. One of the key points when we developed that kind of new technology, which is under patent right now, was the big fight we had against the mass. The mass was our enemy at that point because we wanted to be able to reproduce the entire audio spectrum. So you must go for something very light. First example, the voice coil. Here is a unique voice coil.
I'm going to grab the voice coil real quick.
Unique in many ways. Obviously, we talked about the diameter, 25 millimeter. The height of the voice coil, 4.4 millimeter. Plus, there is a unique feature on that one. As you can see, that voice coil is formerless. So
Right.
that means you only have the wires and the winding of the wires only to maintain the round shape of it. There is no former in order to maintain it on that shape.
All right, so just to explain, because that's what I noticed when they handed it to me, there was, they handed me the coil. Now this one's a bit deformed because I've squeezed it too much, but when they handed me the coil, I noticed there was nothing that it was wound around. So if you're familiar with loudspeaker design or even headphone moving coil dynamic type driver design, the coil is always wound around something, right?
Exactly.
And what it's wound around to give it its shape is called a former. And I think in headphones, most commonly they're using, well, for Kapton would be one of the light materials. Even in some speakers, they even still use cardboard for some loudspeakers. They wind it around cardboard. For headphones, Kapton would be it. But for these two headphones, which I've never seen before, and I'm not sure if that's I don't think that's a common practice, is it? Is anybody else doing a formerless voice coil?
No, we are the very first one to come out with that technology.
So I'm not sure exactly, and I'm not sure how much you're willing to talk about it, but they are not winding the coil around a former. It is a formerless voice coil. I'm not sure how you're getting it to keep its shape, but you can see it keeps its shape, unless a ham-fisted guy like me keeps crunching it down the way I'm doing. So can you talk a little bit more about the formerless voice coil? Like, what are some of the advantages?
Some of the advantages are basically the fact that this voice coil, at the very end of it, 25 millimeter diameter, 4.4 millimeter high, is lighter than a 15 millimeter diameter one, 1.5 millimeter high.
Wow. So the former represents a significant, I mean, when we're talking about
a huge portion of the mass of the voice coil, yes.
So it is a significant portion of the moving mass of a...
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I wasn't clear on that. So that would be its key advantage, is mass.
Exactly. Here we lowered the mass as far as possible to reach very high frequencies, and that was a key point.
All right.
In terms of mass and the fight against the mass, another key point for us was also the surround you have here.
Yeah, I wanted to get to that.
That surround is basically another unique feature we have. The thinnest surround until now available in the market were 200 microns thick. That one is less than 80 microns thick.
So this surround, it's very, very compliant. I'm going to show some close-ups of me even just touching the driver later and how easily it moves. It's it's almost like it's floating.
That's the idea behind it, yes. For us, the idea was, okay, the surround is here to maintain the piston functioning of the mobile equipment from the outside of it. But you always have to fight against the mass on that specific component. So this is why we went for such a very low thickness.
It's very light as well.
In order to make it as light as possible, while maintaining two things. Very high compliance in order to make it super reactive. And also you can see that it allows the loudspeaker to reach very high excursion in the same time.
Yeah, so wanted to talk about that real quick. So it does have a surround. Most headphone drivers don't have a proper surround.
Yep.
This, like a loudspeaker, has a proper surround. There are some headphone drivers that also have a surround, but I've not seen. So let's talk about that X-Max, that maximum linear excursion. Relative to the diameter of the driver, I don't know, I can't recall seeing a driver moving quite as much, an X-Max quite as long for the relative diameter as this one.
Yeah, no, that's is a word first also. And that's part of the reason and the result you get from this unique loudspeaker. I mean, the dynamic you get, the details you have in the low frequencies and the high frequencies as well are quite stunning.
These drivers are so interesting to me, so unusual. For example, while headphone drivers in the industry seem to be getting wider and wider, with 50mm, 53mm, and even 70mm drivers becoming more common, Focal instead went with a more typical diaphragm diameter, but built on a very long throw assembly with large, very compliant surrounds and a very wide and deep formorless voice coil. The diaphragm and coil assembly is so light and the surround so remarkably compliant that when I held the Elear and Utopia drivers in my hand, simply blowing across the top of the diaphragm made it flutter so freely it looked like it was floating on a column of air. Now, despite how much the drivers on the Elear and Utopia have in common, there are some very important differences, which we discussed with Nicolas. I wanted just to talk about the differences between the Elear driver, which is here, and the Utopia driver here.
Right.
So, what are some of the key differences?
So key differences are, first of all, obviously, the dome raw material. On Elear, we are using one of the Focal dome technology, which is based on aluminum magnesium raw materials, so it's a mix. Why? In order to reach, one more time, the best ratio between rigidity and damping as well.
Okay.
Right?
But that's an alloy.
That's an alloy,
Okay, gotcha.
aluminum magnesium,
Okay.
exactly. And the other difference is the magnet we have on that one.
Okay.
Here, the magnet we are using is circular neodymium magnets, whereas on the Utopia driver, here on that loudspeaker, we are using 6 segments of neodymium to reach higher magnet field.
So once again, you can see how open it is. That shiny piece in the middle of the Elear driver is the back of the diaphragm. So that's about as open as a driver of this type is going to get. But let's talk about that again. So a single circular magnet for the Elear.
Exactly.
6 magnets, like high grade.
Yes.
Is it a higher
grade neodymium magnets for Utopia.
So that reminds me a little bit of your flower array.
Yeah, exactly.
But
this
it's
is
not
based,
a flower, but
exactly.
it's 6
Yeah,
different
this
magnets.
is based on one of the Focal famous magnet technology called power flower.
Okay.
We developed years ago, and that technology is used on our Utopia speakers, be it in car and home. And then the other difference with the Utopia loudspeaker is obviously the dome. On Utopia, we are using the very high-end technology Focal is famous for, that's to say the beryllium raw material. So that dome is made of pure beryllium. Beryllium is very interesting on many points. The first one is basically the mass. Beryllium mass is so light that for us at that point it was very interesting. The rigidity of beryllium is also impressive. You only have 2 raw materials worldwide able to scratch glass: diamond and beryllium.
Oh, for use in drivers, you mean? Okay, gotcha.
So for us, reaching such a high grade of rigidity is very interesting because it avoids any distortion of the dome itself. And then obviously the key point about beryllium to finish with is the damping. Beryllium itself has very impressive damping capabilities.
Yeah, you showed me, actually it was pretty cool. Wish we had it here. It was a beryllium spring, like almost a leaf spring with the exact same leaf spring geometry in titanium.
Yep.
And aluminum, was it?
Exactly.
And then you'd flick them. They had equal weights at the end.
Yeah.
And then the beryllium one pretty much just would stop moving almost as quick as you flicked it, where the other 2 would just keep bouncing.
This is it.
So that's what you mean by the damping.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is quite a bit more rigid than titanium per unit mass,
yeah, it's
right?
much more rigid than titanium, yes.
Okay, and aluminum, obviously, then.
Yeah, actually, aluminum is more rigid than titanium.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And it's more rigid than aluminum, then?
Exactly. In terms of rigidity grade, you have titanium, aluminum, and
so it's way higher.
Way higher beryllium, obviously, yeah.
Okay.
The only limits of beryllium is there for the thickness we are using. 1 kilogram of these sheets equals to 40 kilogram of gold in the market price-wise.
Again, I'm very impressed with the atypical approaches Focal's engineers took in designing the Elear and Utopia drivers, and really both headphones in their entireties. After spending so much time talking about the acoustic and mechanical guts of both headphones, we then discussed how Focal made the Elear and Utopia among the most comfortable and perhaps the most beautiful to look at high-end headphones on the market. All right, so, obviously we talked a lot about what's going on inside with the driver.
Yep.
Clearly unique. But now let's talk about the design, because the design is also very, very interesting.
Yeah. Our team of designers focus on two key points. First of all, the comfort of these two pairs of headphones, because comfort is a key point, especially for high-end headphones like these two, where you would probably spend hours listening music through these. So there, one of the point is the headband, first of all. They came out with a design that ensures to fit everybody's head, be it small or large head, and while in the same time avoiding a one-point touch. So the headband sits on the entire head in order to provide the best comfort, first of all. Also, in terms of comfort as well, they went for a non-symmetric fixing points of the yoke to the ear cup in order to make sure that you will have a very uniform pressure all around the ear for the comfort and sealing capabilities as well. Then in terms of aesthetic, they wanted to get rid of the usual split line you have here in order to handle that rotation.
Right.
So what they did is they came out with a very unique way to get this done by integrating that rotation inside the headband.
Okay. So yeah, you can see it moves quite a bit. There's actually, it's like a bow tie shaped channel.
Yeah.
And then it actually moves quite a bit within it. So that's really cool.
So this is how it works. And then obviously for sound performances reason, and especially the stereo imaging of it, we went for a dedicated positioning of the loudspeakers on the ear cup in order to have the loudspeakers positioned as far front as possible, as you can see.
Right.
In order to offer the best stereo imaging we can on such a pair of headphones.
Right. So this is where this is actually where the driver is relative to the cup, and you can see how far forward it's pushed.
Exactly.
Yeah, very cool.
In terms of overall designs, obviously you can see from Elear to Utopia that the design idea is coming from the same spirit. The key differences will be the raw materials we're going to use. On Elear, we are using an aluminum yoke, right, with microfiber tissues on the bottom of the headband as well on the cushions. Okay. Whereas on Utopia, we went for super high-end raw materials. So the yoke, first of all, is a pure carbon fiber yoke. Why? The first reason is to save weight, because as we are using bigger magnets on the Utopia loudspeaker, we had at some point to decrease the overall weight of it.
Gotcha.
So carbon fiber was a good solution for that. Also, in order to go for what we have in the Utopia spirit, so Utopia for us, be it in home or car audio, is a state-of-the-art product. Not only in terms of sound performances, but also in terms of aesthetic and the choice of the raw materials. So here we have pitot leather on headband and cushions as well, in order to go for a very high level of comfort, because pitot is very thin in terms of leather and very soft, and you can feel it when you put the pair of Utopia headphones on your head. That's the comfort level is really, really high, especially for that kind of product.
Yes, the Focal Elear and Utopia are without a doubt among the most comfortable ultra high-end headphones on the market. I've very happily listened to both for many hours straight, many times, and I can wear either for long hours without fatigue. As Nicolas stated, no matter your head shape or size, the headbands of both headphones seem to maximize head contact surface area for better, more comfortable weight distribution. I find the comfort of both of these headphones at about the same level as something like the Sennheiser HD800 and HD800S, which I personally find exceedingly comfortable headphones too. Also, in my opinion, the Elear and Utopia are among the most beautiful headphones on the market today. They are gorgeous. The bits and pieces of both headphones all seem to flow into one another without any abrupt or out-of-place lines or breaks in their overall flowing forms. They're beautiful to look at and look fantastic both off and on the head. I also want to make a comment about build quality, as both headphones feel like ultra-luxury cars. Shake them and things don't wiggle or rattle. Handling them reveals very solid feeling builds. Aesthetically, and in terms of build quality then, the Focal Elear and Utopia are at the top of the heap. By the way, both headphones also come with a nicely built 4-meter cable terminated with a 1/4-inch stereo plug. It's a heavier grade cable, so at 4 meters, it's a heavy cable. Now, as nice as the included cables are, they're simply too long for me, and you can see this one just keeps going, so I don't use them. Instead, I ordered a much shorter Moon Audio Silver Dragon cable for the Elear and a short Black Dragon cable for the Utopia. By the way, on the earpiece sides, the connectors do differ between the two models. The Elear uses one 3.5mm mono plug into each earpiece, and the Utopia uses one 9.5mm LEMO connector into each earpiece. Of course, the most important thing is how these headphones sound, and both are phenomenal entries at their respective price points. Let's start at the top with the $4,000 Focal Utopia. To my ears, the Utopia is one of the most resolving headphones on the market today. In terms of resolution, the Utopia's ability to reveal the most delicate, gauzy, wispy details puts it in rarefied air. Mind you, there are substantially less expensive headphones that I'd call its competitors, but as a package, the Utopia's entire delivery is very well put together and very cohesive. For example, the Hi-Fi-Man HE1000, still my standard setter for bass, can better convey the giant waves of a charged acoustic more convincingly than perhaps any other headphone I've heard, regardless of type, regardless of price. I do think its gigantic diaphragms help make the HE1000 what it is, and its bass performance is among the things I find most mesmerizing about the huge Hi-Fi-Man. But in terms of refinement, from mids to highs, the Utopia edges out the HE1000 for me. Versus the far less expensive Sennheiser HD800S, I also give the Utopia the edge in terms of its deep bass presence, in the sense that overall, I'm hearing a little deeper into the recording with the Focal than the big Sennheiser. The Focal is uncovering more of the diaphanous stuff than the HD800S does, and given how remarkable the HD800S is in that regard, that's extremely high praise for the new flagship Focal. Versus the original Sennheiser HD800, again, the Focal for me is the better headphone, conveying all the detail, but without that occasional bite that I hear on the original HD800. In terms of the Utopia's tonal balance, it's largely neutral, very linear, which is why I know HD800 and HD800S owners will probably be among the first to want to audition the Utopia to see if it's a worthwhile upgrade considering the giant price leap. While I describe its spectral balance as being on the more neutral side, the Utopia has a liveliness across the entire audio band, from its deep extended bass through to as high into the treble as I can hear, that gives it an energy of realism and presence that's rather addictive. Now, I want to make clear, despite its flatter tonal balance, the Utopia is not flat sounding at all in the boring sense. In terms of measured performance, the Utopia is among the best electrodynamic headphones we've yet measured here at HeadFi. Its bass is nearly flat down at 10 Hz, and its total harmonic distortion is perhaps the lowest we've yet measured from a moving coil dynamic headphone. We're going to do more careful same-session measurements between the Utopia, Elear, and several of their competitors from other companies to get a clearer picture. I'll be surprised if any other electrodynamic headphone we have here is able to top the Utopia, especially in terms of its distortion performance. The Utopia is an incredible headphone, period. Incredible. Do I recommend it? If you've got the budget and you're shopping for top-flight headphones, then yes, without hesitation, the Focal Utopia has to be included on your audition list. Now, as impressed as I am by the Utopia, there's a part of me that's even more excited about the Elear. No, the Elear can't quite match its flagship sibling in terms of overall performance, but it's also only a quarter of the price at $999. Like the Utopia, the Elear is a very revealing, very resolving headphone, just not quite at the level of the Utopia. But you know what? I still consider the Elear one of the Utopia's competitors, and that's a remarkable thing. While it can't out-resolve its sibling, it is at a level of resolution that to my ears puts it squarely with the best of what's available anywhere near its price, regardless of driver type. The Elear also offers a different sonic flavor than the Utopia, and I think it's a flavor a lot of people in this community will like a lot. The Elear's tonal balance versus the Utopia is richer bass, richer mid-range, I'd say richer than neutral. Switching from the Utopia immediately to the Elear, you'll notice you're giving up a bit of resolution, and at first blush, the Elear almost sounds thick. Then you realize that richness, which I don't find overpowering in the least, and is perhaps more like where my tonal tastes have been swinging the past couple of years anyway, that richness does not, to my ears, come at the expense of flabbiness. It's still taut, still fast, still detailed. Its tonal balance reminds me of the Utopia's tonal balance, but with room gain figured in, or what PSB calls room feel. The Utopia is an incredible option to consider if you're shopping for headphones in the $1,000 price range or even higher. Even in terms of its measured performance, we found the Elear to be nipping at the heels of the $4,000 Utopia. Yes, you can see its frequency response isn't quite as linear, owing to the richer than neutral tonal balance Focal obviously and on purpose opted for with the Elear, but its distortion performance is almost as strong as the Utopia's. For its richer tonal balance, for its price of only $1,000, for how well it keeps up with its far more expensive sibling in so many ways, I have to say the Focal Elear is in some ways the more exciting headphone of the two for me. I've been carrying it everywhere I go, driving it with my iPhone and an AudioQuest Dragonfly Red amp DAC, and also with the Onkyo DPX1 digital audio player, and also with the venerable Astelin Current AK380, along with its amp. All of these portable options are great for driving the Utopia too, but I'm just not as likely to tote a $4,000 headphone around for obvious reasons. Both the Elear and Utopia have nominal impedance of 32 ohms. Both have rated sensitivity of 104 decibels at a milliwatt at 1 kilohertz. In other words, both of these headphones are very versatile and quite easy to drive. The Elear's tonal balance perhaps makes it a bit more forgiving, and so it can make it an easier match. What's great, though, is that both scale fantastically in performance, depending on what kind of system you put in front of it, whether it's a portable system or the very highest-end system you can come up with. I found the Utopia to be particularly well paired with a few tube amps we have on hand here at the office. The Wu Audio W8 Eclipse gives the Utopia a wonderfully lush tone. I find this combo very captivating, very addictive, but admittedly it's a bit of a departure from the Utopia's standard character, but I love that lushness. When I've wanted some of the added richness and warmth of tubes, but with a little less imparted thickness, I've turned to the Dragon Inspire IHA1 tube headphone amp from Moon Audio. Some solid-state offerings that I've had great success with both of these headphones include the Sim Audio 430HA and the Cavalli Audio Liquid Carbon, both driven by the Shid Audio Yggdrasil DAC. And the Meridian Prime has also been a great match as a desktop DAC amp combo for both, and it'll support MQA when that becomes more widely available. Now, as far as my top choices go, well, we recently received the French Total DAC D1 Integral headphone, which is the one on the bottom here. It's a discrete R-to-R DAC made with 100 high-precision naked resistors. This particular Total DAC model is so named as it incorporates a built-in headphone amp, as well as Roon-ready music server. The Total DAC D1 Integral headphone is beautifully smooth sounding. It has gorgeous airy imaging, and it makes for one heck of an all-French, ultra-high-end system with either or both of the new Focal flagships. In terms of ultimate fidelity with these headphones so far, though, I'd have to give the edge to Chord Electronics' Dave. Frankly, the Chord Dave is simply incredible. I don't think I've heard a more resolving DAC or DAC amp combo ever. I haven't yet measured anything quite like it either, for whatever that's worth. So Dave offers incredible sound and incredible measured performance. It's great with both Focals and really just about any other headphone you plug into it as well. And when paired with the Utopia, the sheer resolution and amount of detail and information being hurled at me, it's otherworldly. Spectacular stuff. Anyway, today's an important day with the unveiling of two great new headphones in the Focal Elear and Focal Utopia. I hope more high-end loudspeaker manufacturers follow suit, making headphones that are true reflections of the very best that their engineers can develop and deliver. Congratulations to the team at Focal for the effort and the results with both of these headphones. Thank you for watching HeadFi TV. We'll see you next time.